Hey guys, it's Armin with PWR, and today I'm bringing you guys a hand history analysis covering a hand I played sometime last year against a poker streamer. Basically, I'm going to show you guys the hand, run through the hand street by street, giving, my thoughts on how this hand would break down theoretically, and talk about how I kind of deviated from theory and exploited my opponent in this particular spot. So it's going to kind of be more of a street poker hand, and we're going to be diving into how I kind of use theory to exploit my opponent. With that being said, let's dive right into the hand. So I open the hijack to 2.25 blinds, and our villain defends the big blind. Relatively decent board for me. Everything is disconnected. I still have an overpair advantage. I have all the sets, so does my opponent. I guess they have less jacks because jacks would 3-bet preflop. So he checks and I bet a small size and I face a check raise. Okay, I'm not going to dive too deep into what villain is going to be check raising here, but it's going to be sets, 2 pairs, some top pair, and some pair plus backdoors for the most part. I call, could play 3 bets, so my calling range going to be overs with backdoor flush draws, straight draws, pairs on the board, maybe some under pairs. It is kind of a big check raise. Given the check raise size, probably getting rid of offsuit overcards for the most part. Turn to 6. Straights complete, some 2 pairs complete. Very good turn card for the out of position player. So out of position is going to be check raising hands like 7-6, 5-6, pair plus backdoor hands. So backdoor straight draws, backdoor flush draws. Jack 7 and Jack 5, still relatively good hands. The fact that I'm in the hijack means I'm not going to be opening 8-9 offsuit, so I don't improve too much on this turn card, and out of position improves quite a bit. So if we're thinking about theory, all the hands that they check raise on the flop generally improve on the turn. So my Siri just went off when I said theory. Okay. They pick up equity on the turn, so you should be betting this turn a lot for a big size. Very often, I mean, for a big size. But this is where the hand kind of takes an interesting turn. Our opponent checks, so kind of question mark on what's going on here immediately, right? Alarm signs are ringing. He check raised the flop, got one of the best turns for his range, and then elected to check. And if I recall correctly, he went pretty deep into his time bank before checking. So, this is where the hand kind of goes off the rails. I'm not going to dive into everything that went into my decision yet, but I decided to overbet, and villain calls. Then the river is a 3, so now any 4 makes a straight. And, hands like queens aren't particularly happy with, or 8 jacks or 2 pair like 7-6 aren't particularly happy seeing a straight complete, and our villain decides to donk shove all in, so essentially saying that they improved on the 4. So me sitting there on the river, I had a decision, so I clicked the call button, and our villain shows 5 use of hearts, so a bluff, and then I show a speculative hand, ace jack off. So pretty, on the surface, pretty thin to overbet the turn, and then pretty questionable to call a donk shove all in on the river, because what could our opponent be bluffing, except for 5 use of hearts. So I guess let's rewind the hand and kind of see what's going on, right? What caused me to make this errant play? So, we're on the flop. I might as well show the hero, show all the whole cards. We're on the flop. I said that I dived into the check raising range, right? And then we got to the turn where the villain decided to check. So I said alarm bells are ringing, right? Because this turn's a very good turn card for their range, and they decided to check. So, what does this tell me? This tells me that, one, they elected to check a turn that's very good for their range, so something's wrong, right? What could be wrong? Maybe they're playing their exact hand. They don't feel comfortable with betting their hand. What type of hands, don't feel comfortable betting? Let's think about it. In game, I pretty much thought that, okay, he probably check raised a jack that's weaker than mine, or, the same hand, and isn't comfortable with putting money into the pot, at least for a big size. And, typically a big size is used in these spots. So, if they're sitting here with queen jack and they don't want to overbet, they don't feel comfortable with it, that's what I kind of assume they'd have. Or they check raise, a hand that doesn't entirely interact with the 6. So they're not certain whether they should bet it or not. That's something I'm thinking about. So, what type of hands would that be? I would think that hands that aren't pair plus straight draws, because those make very natural bluffs on the turn because they turn decent equity. So hands like 5-4, 6-4, I guess 7-8, 5-8, those hands make sense to bet. And for that reason, I didn't put him on those hands. So here, in my eyes, he probably check raised a hand that shouldn't have check raised the flop. So in game, I think I put him on hands like ace-5 of hearts, king-5 of hearts that shouldn't check raise the flop because they fold out hands like ace-king and ace-queen offsuit that they want to keep in. And, kind of for the same reason they didn't check raise the flop, they aren't entirely comfortable with betting the turn because they're folding out hands like ace-queen and ace-king of clubs that would snap fold the turn to a bet. So for that reason, those hands might check. But for the same reasons that those hands might check, the other hands that I mentioned would bet because they could use those hands. They could use the fact that those hands are folding to their advantage. So once out of position player checks and tank checks, and I technically, if their range is going to have weak jack X and some pair plus flush draws, in theory, they should be checking some 8-9 to protect that range. So if I'm, given that, they're supposed to check some 8-9, given our knowledge of theory, if a player's range is well protected, you're not going to choose too big of a sizing, right? Well, in this case, if I'm discounting 8-9 from our opponent's range, using our theory knowledge, if your opponent's range is weaker relative to your range, the bigger size you could take, the more generous your value threshold can get. So, I set my threshold at ace jack because out of position's check raising range is mainly going to be ace jack or below. So, that's where my cutoff is. I don't think he's checking 2-pair. I don't think he's checking a straight. So if he has a weak jack or a pair plus flush draw or pair plus whatever that doesn't interact with the 6 in any way, then I can kind of choose whatever size I want as long as my value threshold's correct. So, I choose overbet. So I increase, typically maybe if I think this person's checking the nuts, maybe I choose a small size. But in this case, I overbet. And now that the 3 comes, given what I put him on, the 3 doesn't really change anything. The 3 might as well be a deuce. So given my, understanding of what he might have, the fact that he donk shoved all in tells me very unlikely he has a 4 in his hand. It would have to be, exactly jack 4 hearts. Jack 4 diamonds could arguably fold the turn, but I guess actually it'd be pretty tough to fold an open ender, even though it's kind of drawing dead to 8-9. But that's the type of hand he might have. Or maybe my assumption was wrong and he did check call a hand like 7-4 or 5-4, but I was fairly confident that he didn't. So I kind of just put him on a jack that was weaker than mine that was decided to just bluff to fold out a better hand, or an ace-5 or king-5 of hearts. But in this case, it was a deuce-5 of hearts that I'm not going to shit on him or anything, but probably shouldn't have check raised the flop, but it isn't that inaccurate. Small mistake. But yeah, for that reason I called and saw a good result. And the villain wasn't entirely happy seeing ace jack take this line, but it was pretty fun for me. So hope that breakdown was acceptable. I kind of used theory, my understanding of theory, to kind of push my hand to its limits. And if he hadn't donk jammed, for the same reasons that I mentioned, I could probably go for value here. You know, we, I guess, decrease our value threshold, right? So now it's looser, and we can kind of just, now we have a lot more value hands. We could bluff accordingly as well, right? So we can kind of construct our range altogether to kind of attack a weaker capped range. Like this board right here, given the range I put them on, is no different than, you know, a drier king queen deuce 4 board, right? Like the one where you bet the flop and overbet the turn. So you know, a lot of the time the texture is not actually what matters, it's how the ranges interact with the texture, right? So some food for thought whenever you're breaking down your opponent's range while you're playing. So hope you guys enjoyed this mini exploitative breakdown, and if you guys are interested in poker coaching, check out our website in the description below. And with that being said, peace out.